Today, I am joined by the incredible Sara Elisabeth, author of the Pacific Northwest Boys series. If you love messy, magnetic characters, second chances, and stories that hold heartbreak and heat in the same breath, you are going to want to lean in and listen to this one. Her new book, Someone Like Me, is a raw and addictive MMF poly-romance set against the rainbow backdrop of Vancouver. It follows Fiona, a woman on the run from her past, who finds herself entangled with her best friend's brooding brother and a broken-hearted ex-flinging she never thought she'd see again. Ex-fling she never thought she'd see again. There we go. The chemistry is intense, the banter is sharp, and the emotional stakes absolutely through the roof. Holy crap, it's going to be one of those days. Sara, thank you so much for being here.
Mm-hmm. Excited to talk about it.
This is going to be a ton of fun. All right, so right out of the gate here, this story brings together three characters with a lot of heat and history. What can you tell me about the dynamic between them without giving too much away?
Fiona is the main female character, and she has an interesting connection with both guys. She went to college with Brantley, so they have a history. If you read Someday Away, you'd know that they were a pretty flirty couple, and that Fiona was very resistant to his charms throughout most of the book. So it's fun because in Someone Like Me, you get to see like the flashback moment when she finally gives in and what their relationship turned into, and then what it ultimately happened to break them up in the end. Which leads to their current state of the relationship, which involves a lot of distrust after all the events that happen. So that's their relationship. And then as far as Sebastian goes, Sebastian's kind of a best friend's brother situation. And he's the stepbrother of her best friend Charlie from the first book. And she's found him attractive ever since they met, but never really took it farther out of respect for her friend. So there's a lot of that angst, and Sebastian has similar feelings about dating his sister's best friend. So watching them kind of resist each other until they ultimately give in is kind of, and then, feel like they're betraying Charlie on top of it all, in addition to all the other emotional issues that they have is fun. Yeah.
It just sounds like so much drama. All the drama.
Yes, lots of drama.
So from what I've seen, this book touches on a lot of heavier emotional themes alongside the romance. What inspired you to go there, and how do you keep it grounded in love and connection?
Well, my books always have a healthy dose of generational trauma. What parents do to their children matters, whether they realize it or not. And this theme leads organically to the idea of found family, which is really huge in my writing and my personal life. So, in my opinion, healthy emotional connections to people are way more important than blood relatives. So those found family elements go hand in hand with, love, romantic or otherwise. And it's important to feel valued and safe, and sometimes you find that in unexpected people, and that can mean a lot. So that's kind of where I go with that.
Well, and it adds a lot of realism to the romance genre. Like, regardless of what you're doing there, it's nice to have that kind of grounded element that a lot of people can relate to. All right, so we've got a setup that sounds like trouble in the best way. Two guys, one woman, and a lot of tension. What drew you to wanting to write a poly romance like this one?
Well, it's really different from my first book. In Someday Away, the guys were lifelong best friends. They had an established connection, and it made their dynamic with Charlie really easy to write and digest and seem realistic. But these guys aren't friends, at all. It's safe to say that Sebastian hates Brantley from the beginning. And so I took a lot of the idea of enemies to lovers and just kind of ran with it with them. And they have to navigate the fact that they're both attracted to Fiona, but then so adding her to the mix is pretty easy. She's an easy person to love. However, then the most challenging part is showing the relationship as Sebastian and Brantley grow and develop and change in a relatively short period of time, but still make it seem, realistic, like their feelings are valuable and make a difference, and they're not just cardboard cutout characters in a romance novel. So it was definitely a way bigger challenge to write this particular why choose poly romance, just because I've never written one where the characters ultimately hated each other from the beginning.
So this one's not on the list of questions, but is that something that you had to find a different way to plan out and write when you were approaching handling this type of situation there?
Yeah, definitely. Just because I also didn't want it, like, Someday Away takes place over the course of an entire school year, so they have months and months of established connection there. And this one really takes place over like several weeks. So it's I had to kind of mix a realistic kind of insta love, along with making it seem like, even though they don't know each other that well, that maybe there were connections in their past and maybe they didn't realize it. And you just have to like tie it all together. And it was definitely hard to do. Like I thought I sent it to my editor like good to go, and she wrote back and she's like, no, this is happening too fast, this is happening too slow, like the pacing's not right for this, like you need to, she's like, I don't believe their connection yet. And so like I really had to do a lot of rewrites, a lot more than I thought I'd have to do, just to get them where I wanted them to be, as far as how I wanted my readers to feel about their relationship.
So then the personalities in this book, as you were saying, they're like total opposites in a lot of ways. There's a lot of friction there. Did any of the characters come to you kind of fully formed, or were there more evolutions throughout all the rewrites?
So I'm 100% a pantser. Nothing ever comes to me fully formed, unfortunately. So I had ideas. These were side characters from Someday Away. I had, personality traits, like the skeleton of each of them, but nothing concrete. And so actually the most surprising character art turned out to be Sebastian, because he's demisexual, but he's also experienced some significant trauma when he was younger, and he juggles with all of these complicated emotions when it comes to intimacy and sex, and shifting through all of them on his journey was like, it was just it was a whole new experience. Like he was pretty much teaching me as I went along, because I had no idea how to write this character at all. So, and I think I get the most compliments on his character arc. So, but yeah, none of them were definitely fully formed. I just kind of wrote as I went, and it all just fell into place. A little bit of Tetris, writing Tetris, I guess.
Definitely. Well, I know. So I don't think I even told you this yet, but I wrote a sapphic romance novel recently.
Oh,
I know,
that's exciting.
It was not expected at all. Like even in the opening little thing, it's like originally it was she was she was going to be a lesbian, like the main character. Like I knew that going in, but the romance focus in the entire story went way off from the original like horror suspense thing that I had originally going. And it just went off into this entire like really wholesome and really nice thing. It was like, oh Jesus, this is insane. But that's where we went, and I kind of love it.
Yeah, it goes off the rails. I love it. It's my favorite part. When it goes off the rails.
So you included a playlist for this story, which I absolutely love. Is there one song on there that really captures the mood or emotional core of the book for you?
Well, it's kind of a toss-up. All my books are named after Overshot songs. They're a band from Texas, and I was friends with their drummer. It's kind of a long, sad story for another time, but their songs are always kind of top of mind when I write, because the person who I knew in that band had such a big influence in my writing. So their song "Someone Like Me" is the easy answer, because that's also the name of the book. However, one of my best friends, Sarah, who's also a writer, she sent me "Gone" by Atreyu, and I was having like a terrible set of like writer's block, couldn't figure out where I was going next, like just didn't feel like writing at all. And listening to that kind of blew that barrier away, and it just kept me going. So it kind of became like the cornerstone for the rest of the book from that point on. So like they're, the vibe and the lyrics and everything, it just hits really well.
She's good at pulling. If it's the Sarah I'm thinking about, it's good at pulling songs. Yeah. Definitely good at pulling.
It's our friend Sarah.
The story setting, there's a lot in Vancouver and Pacific Northwest. Moody, a little broody, kind of perfect for romance. Why was this the right backdrop for the story?
Well, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and so I just love everything about the area. But that aside, you're right. It's perfect for romance, especially dark romance. There's a reason that people still obsess over Twilight for all these years later. Despite how cheesy and problematic it was, like the haunting atmosphere is just top notch. So I think it's just the angst that it just exudes is like I feel like I'll have a hard time when I finally finish the series and maybe have to write a book somewhere else. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do because I feel like the atmosphere itself is its own character. So
there's plenty of other dark, broody places you can go to. I mean, some nice Ireland settings.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I might have to do research and actually visit.
Oh no! So you have to take a trip
I know,
over to Ireland. Oh, it's horrible.
Exactly.
So this is part of an interconnected series. How does this book stand on its own, and what can returning readers expect to see from earlier characters?
Well, I wanted this book to stand on its own, and it does. But you don't need to know what happened to Someday Away to enjoy Someone Like Me. But I do think that reading book one makes the experience a bit richer. There's definitely an entire scene at the end of the book with almost everyone from the first book, so it's almost like a reunion scene, I guess. But while the banter is fun and it's amusing to people who maybe haven't met Someday Away's characters, it definitely has like Easter eggs and throwbacks and character mannerisms that will be familiar to people who have read the book. And so I think that gives it kind of like an extra personal touch for people who have stuck with the series. And there are a few plot spoilers to Someday Away in it. There's nothing like mind-blowing, but it'll at least have you looking at it and being like, oh, I maybe I should read the first book. Like I didn't realize that happened, So while it is a standalone and I market it as a standalone, I always encourage people to read the first one just to get the full experience, I guess. Yeah.
So without spoiling anything, going back to our talk about mental health, identity, and past trauma, how do you approach those kinds of themes when you're writing a romance story?
Well, definitely with great care. Some of the themes, like I'm very familiar with, I identify as bisexual. I have friends who are all over the queer spectrum. So writing characters who are navigating their identity and like what it means to be queer is like super important. When I grew up, kissing another girl was a party trick. So allowing people to explore like who they are and how they feel about themselves, judgment-free, is just really, really important to me. And it goes hand in hand with mental health. Anxiety and depression, as that was something that was pretty much sidelined in the 80s and 90s, and we need to talk about it. Like we need to show people that it's okay to have these feelings. It's not a weakness. So that's kind of what I'm hoping that I can do in one of my books, is have someone relate to a character who's dealing with all of these issues.
Definitely, it's super important, and I think going back to a conversation we had a long time ago about when people who don't read romance think of romance, that type of interpersonal connection and relatability is not something that they would think is part of romance, but as I've learned over the past couple of years, it's a huge part of it. That's that emotional connection, the relatability between events that characters are going through is hugely important, and just makes it so much better. So to be able to navigate that is amazing. All right, so there is a line in the description: romance book or horror novel, which is brilliant. Can readers expect some suspense or twisty moments throughout?
Yeah, so I have an entire scene where I try to include every campy horror trope that I can think of, and I love that scene. I really love horror movies, but I'm really bad at watching them because I'm a huge chicken. So and of course, writing a scene like that is different. You don't have special effects, you don't have spooky music, so you have to use words to convey all of the same emotions and to evoke the same emotions. And as someone who writes a lot of cheesy lines and sex scenes, like that was tough. Because it's not the type of scene I was used to writing. Like, you always have a little bit of action in a dark romance, but this was definitely a lot more than I normally do. But I think it turned out okay. I think it certainly doesn't end the way readers will expect it to end. So it's a fun twist.
And that's when the ghosts come out.
She was dead the whole time.
It was a dream. No, just end it on it was a dream. No. That's how you do it.
Never use that. Never use that.
I'm telling you, man, you can do it. You can do it. You'll pull it off fine. All right. So this is not your typical love triangle. What do you hope readers take away from this story and the relationship at the heart of it?
Well, love and acceptance is kind of the point. Does it really matter who you love or how you love, or as long as the feeling's mutual? Probably not. This whole idea that love fits into like this little cis-het box is, it's honestly kind of ridiculous. So, which is why polyromance is so fun to write anyway, because, sky's the limit. Like love triangles, they make good drama on screen, but tell me it wouldn't be better if they all three ended up together and got a happy ever after. Like, think about your favorite love triangle. If the three of them actually like got over themselves and got along and figured out their shit, like that's a better ending to me. So than having to choose. So I mean, that's the whole name, right? Why choose? Like, you don't need a choice. It's about love more than it is about what society expects of a relationship.
Absolutely love it. So before we kind of wrap this up here, what is next for Sara Elisabeth?
Well, the last book in the series, and I recently figured out the title. I won't share that yet, but the last book in the series is on the characters Marcus and Jeremy. So it'll be my first male romance. So it's not going to be poly, though I'm sure there'll be plenty of queer characters in it because that's my style. But Marcus is bisexual and Jeremy is gay. So it'll be interesting to write and see their dynamic and how all that plays out. So I have lots of ideas in my head, but that's kind of where I'm going with it. That one's probably less so in Vancouver. They're in Seattle, so who knows what they'll end up. But pantser, so no idea.
And are you doing any book events, anything like that coming up that you want to shout out and promote?
Yeah. I don't know if many of your listeners are probably local to the Pacific Northwest. I've got a book signing in Issaquah, Washington, which is at the Barnes & Noble there in June 21st. And then I'll be on Vancouver Island in October in Nanaimo doing a book signing there for the West Coast Readers Convention. So that'll be fun. August 9th, sorry, I went out of order, but August 9th in Vancouver, Washington, there's I'm doing an event for Romance Bookstore Day. There's a little bookshop there called the Romance Era Bookshop. It's like an indie romance bookshop. They're great. The owner is great. But they are putting on this event, so I'm excited about that one too. And it's their first, so hopefully it will become a thing.
That's amazing. So much traveling. Holy shit. And coming to Canada. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I was excited I have to figure out the payment thing because you guys don't have to know and things like that. So I have to work through that little logistics.
PayPal is your friend here when it comes to dealing with that stuff. Yeah. Actually, we'll talk about that after. But anyways, we are going to wrap it up right here. Sara, before we sign off, where can people find you and your latest books?
Links to where all my books are sold are on my website, which is SaraElisabethAuthor.com, and that's Sara, no H, Elizabeth with an S, not a Z, author.com. And same with all my socials. It's my social handle as well, Sara Elisabeth Author. So, if you want signed copies, I'll sell them. I'll be selling someone like me a little bit. Obviously, Amazon gets my stock later than the book release date because they have to ship them to me the day that it's released, which is, don't even get me started on how dumb that is. But so the signed copies will come a little later. But yeah, you can buy those on my website and then Amazon. Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much to everyone that is currently here watching. Make sure to go and pick up this book. Pick up both books. Seriously. You're gonna love them. They're gonna be awesome. You know, I don't promote out shit that I don't like, so you know, just go and do it. It'll be a ton of fun. Sara Elisabeth, thank you so much for joining me here. This has been absolutely amazing. Can't wait to dive further into the book and have more conversations about everything coming up, because you know, you're like doing a whole Avengers style thing. You'll have to do one book with like all of the characters, and it'll be like,
you know, I thought about a novella like that. Yeah, just bring them all together in the end.
just like 6 books total. It's like your Lord of the Rings with dark romance. It'll be
One can only
amazing.
hope.
You know, it'll be a ton of fun. All right, now I just need you to say goodbye to everyone, and we'll sign off.
Good to see everyone. Thanks for supporting me. All indie authors. Yep.